Hey guys and gals, this is Susie coming at you, host of Adventures of Outdoorwoman podcast as part of the Paddle and Fin podcast. Today I'm going to be going over my top baits of 2019. Gonna show you and explain what was successful throughout my season last year. A Happy New Year, by the way. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So my first bait here is a soft plastic. This is a bait that I have used probably ever since I got into kayak fishing. So I've got the good old Yum Dinger here. This is the 4-inch one. And then of course we've got our 5-inch one here. And this is in the black blue flake. And that was a very successful bait for me at the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship down in Shreveport, Louisiana. I used that quite a lot, especially when I was on Caddo Lake. And it helped me really good on day one, and day two I just kind of struck out. But then day three I came right back and caught me some really nice ones. And of course, you know, it's a pretty versatile bait. You can use it just about all year long. I use it a lot here at Banner and other places. You know, and as far as, you know, using Yum, it's, you know, it's kind of cheaper than Gary Yamamoto's and whatnot. So they don't last quite as long, but, you know, they've always been a go-to for me. And a couple different ways that I've rigged them out throughout the years is I'll wig them up either wacky rig style or Texas rig. Sometimes I'll have a weight on them, sometimes I won't. And even with the wacky rig, sometimes I'll use a weighted hook and then other times not. Just kind of depends on situation and how I'm wanting that bait to fall in the water. So that's my bait number 5 for the year. And we'll move on to the next bait. So my number 4 bait is the, this is actually another one of my favorite baits, especially here locally and in any kind of murky water situations, is the Missile Bait D-Bomb. So this is the Super Bug color. So on one side you've got your black blue color with some blue flake, and then on the other you've got your pumpkin green color still with some blue flake in there. And I usually rig this up Texas rig style, a lot of times weightless, sometimes other with just like a lightweight, or if I'm wanting to punch through some heavy mats, then I'll put a heavier weight on it. But I'll use it weightless throughout the season. That's usually kind of what works best for me, and how I get my best bites is just kind of has that slow, natural fall to it. So that's bait number 4, and we're going to move on to bait number 3. So bait number 3 is not necessarily like a new bait or anything. It's kind of newer to me. I only started using this in the past 2 years. I'd used it a couple of times, but nothing consistently. But the next bait is the tube. And this is a 2.75-inch tube. I actually don't like throwing the bigger tubes. Usually the smaller profile is what I like to stick to. And I used it in clear lakes, murky water lakes, Gull Lake. This was a really good key one for me. And even at the White River in Indiana for the Hobie Satellite event, this was my killer bait then. And I'll use these on a couple different types of heads. So like I'll have like a darter head, they call them like pro tube, tender tubes. There's a couple different names for them, but kind of a couple different heads that I'll use, a couple different weights. I usually use about, an 1/8 of an ounce. Sometimes a little bit heavier, just kind of depending on how deep of water I'm going through. But yeah, that profile seems to work pretty good. This color is a pumpkin. It is called a green pumpkin orange roadkill. So it's got green pumpkin, and then it's got some orange flakes to it. So that color was pretty killer for me this year too. Moving on, we're going to go to bait number 2, and a lot of people will probably not be surprised for this bait for me. Boom. Plopper. This thing has been dynamite for me for years. And this bait itself, you can actually see here, it's kind of been torn up quite a bit. Can't really see it really good on here, but I've changed the hooks out on this thing probably 4 times this year. And this is the 90F. This is my favorite color and favorite size plopper. You can use this thing anywhere. Banner, clear water, dark water, anywhere. When you've got your overcast, got a little bit of wind going on, this is a very versatile bait. And you got to be careful with the hook sometimes too, because if you guys have been following me, I had the back hook catch into my leg when I was out at Banner last year now, since we're now in 2020. And but luckily I was able to get it out fairly easily. So, but hooks are definitely vital on this thing. When you get them, just change them out right away. I like to use Gamakatsu hooks. I think about size 4 or 5. But yeah, make sure you change them out, and this bait is super killer. And then my moving on to my number 1 bait. Drum roll. Boom. The jerkbait. This thing was phenomenal for me in 2019. It was pretty much my first time using jerkbaits correctly, I should say. Beforehand, I hadn't really used them like quote unquote correctly, but 2019, I really kind of brushed up on how to use them effectively, efficiently, and yeah, all I can say is wow, holy smokes. I crushed it. Like everywhere I went when I would use the jerkbait, I caught fish pretty much every time I threw it. I caught my personal best smallmouth a couple times this year because I kept on breaking it at Lake St. Clair this year. But Lake St. Clair used a lot of this one, which is the Megabast Vision 110 Junior. And then, of course, I also use the, I like the KVD jerkbaits. This is, I believe, like the clear minnow color. And one important lesson that I learned this year with these, a couple different lessons actually, is one, especially with these, change the hooks out. They will bend and break after about maybe your 3rd fish, maybe not even. Learned that the hard way when I was on St. Clair, but luckily that was when I was pre-fishing. So I was able to change those out right away. And another important lesson that I learned is always carry split ring pliers with you. A lot of you know that I had got my first embedded hook in 2019 on a jerkbait when I was up in Minocqua. And I was on this little tiny lake. It was a portage, so I had to portage my kayak about 3/4 of a mile to get there. And it was towards the end of the day. And sure enough, I was smashing smallies all day long. I had probably maybe 96 inches in smallies that day. It was phenomenal. And I caught my last one and lipped them real good with my right hand and got the hook embedded in my ring finger here. And I didn't have any split ring pliers on me. I'm right-handed too, so it was kind of awkward, and I realized what kind of a bad situation I was in. So, but luckily I had a couple of buddies who live up in the area and called them, and they were able to come help me out. So, but yes, hook replacements are very important on these baits. I like to use Gamakatsu hooks. Those are usually a good go-to. And especially with the Mega Bass ones, those are usually pretty good, but you'll still want to check them and replace them every now and then, because they can wear out pretty easily and break pretty easily. So yeah, so top 5 baits, pretty awesome. You know, Yum Dingers, Nisselbait D-bombs, and you know, I like the baby size, but the bigger size is pretty good too. The tubes, Bass Teaser tubes, different color assortments with those, but again, the green pumpkin orange roadkill was killer. And then of course, you know, the ploppers, those are always a fun bait. I mean, who doesn't love top water? And then of course you got your jerk baits. So really learning, you know, pausing and the cadence, and even the line too. Line was really important for 2019 as well. So yeah, hopefully these might help you for 2020. I know jerk baits are going to be top baits for me this year, along with probably every other one, but maybe we'll have some different top ones at the end of 2020. So here's to Happy New Year, everybody, and tight lines, and we'll see you on the water.